Hello, everyone.
Hello?
Hey, John. I don't see Dion yet. She's still coming, isn't she, Crystal?
Yes, she might just be a couple minutes late.
Okay. So just give it a minute here. Nice to see you, Lorraine.
Nice to see everybody again. It's been a few meetings.
Yes. I see her there. She is hiding.
I'm here.
Hello, Councillor Schumacher.
Have the
Right?
too
We
many
do have
buttons
quorum.
to push. Too many
Too many buttons. Nice to see that we do have quorum, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I would ask Councillor Dion Schumacher to read the land acknowledgement statement. You're on mute there.
Again, too many buttons to push. Okay. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, and create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you very much for that. So the clerk has assigned seconders or first and movers and seconders. Is everybody okay with that? Did everybody get that? Is it fine? Okay, perfect. That's great. So moved by Dion Schumacher, seconded by Lauren Blondin. The Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting agenda dated September 28th be adopted and printed as circulated. All those in favor? And that carries. Does anybody have a disclosure of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none. We don't have any deputations.
John has one.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
I have a conflict on item 6.1. I was working on that file, so I will turn my microphone and video off at that time.
Excellent. Thanks, John. Number 4, we don't have any deputations. Number 5, reports. 5.1, we have Chris Nagy's here with us today, and he's going to give us an update, verbal report on the town hall steps that are being installed. Chris, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Armour. So as committee may be aware, at the beginning of the year, the town hall working group brought forward a report on suggested methods of replacing the town hall stairs. At this point, internally, I can confirm that staff have been directed to take preventative measures of maintaining the existing staircase. And that's in conjunction with obviously streetscape that's going on. You may all be aware that the ramp itself is going in at a steady pace, which is phenomenal to see and everything like that. But as far as the front stairs go, at this stage, it is preventative maintenance just to ensure that they are still passable for the required emergency exit. So That's where kind of that project is. And if there are any questions from committee, I'd be happy to try and cite them. If not, I can, get one of my colleagues to address the committee in the future.
Thanks, Chris, for that. Does committee have any questions? I just have one. I just wondering, do we have an expected date for completion? Or a month?
Yeah, so to you, Mr. Chair, we are in the early stages of getting quotes on what we're actually doing. There are discussions at the staffing level of, are we going to, take some material aspects into the stairs from streetscape, or are we just repointing the brick and kind of leaving it at that? So depending on the extension, or depending on what needs to be done to make sure that they are safe, will lead to how long the actual project's going to go. But I do know that facility staff have been looking into it for pretty much the last month to get a direction and get that going. So yeah.
Thanks for that, Chris. No, I don't see any other questions. So thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate you coming. And if we do get any questions later on, I'm sure we can reach out to you and get some answers.
Happy to, no problem at all.
Thank you. 5.2 on our agenda is Crystal, and she's on the report of the 2018-2022 accessibility plan and the 2021 update. Crystal, floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Armour. The report is in front of you. Staff did do quite a comprehensive review of the plan, and this was in response to a report that went to Council earlier this year. Council was wanting a bit of an update on the plan and where things were at in regards to accessibility, which kind of spurred on staff to take a look at the plan and where things were at a little bit more in depth. So I've highlighted all of the items that have changed within the body of the report. It is noted that there was some response received from members of the public or a member of the public in regards to the changes. But this is staff's recommendation, and we're happy to hear from committee and what you'd like to see moving forward.
Excellent, thank you. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the comments we received? Does anybody have any questions about those? Laurel?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with much of what Debbie has said here. It seems strange that a lot of this stuff was taken out. And the transit part we've been working on for years and years and years. And we were told that the bus stops would become accessible. So it just seems a shame to just decide they don't need to be anymore.
Right.
And the lines look, all that stuff, right? I mean, how were these decisions made to drop all this stuff?
Crystal did reach out to the senior management team and to inquire about this, and unfortunately we didn't get all the answers back today on that. So we can wait if you like. I don't know if anybody, go ahead, Crystal.
Just kind of a general comment. I won't speak specifically to anything, just because, like I said, I don't have all the comments received back from the directors. They just looked at it this morning as well. So they were trying to get stuff back to me as quick as they could. But just some general comments on it. It was viewed from a few different lenses. One was if there was already something in legislation that required us to do something, it was kind of looked at, was it redundant? Do we need to have it in there twice? If we are required to come and talk to committee about something, or we are required to make something accessible, do we need to have it in the plan? So that was one lens that we looked at it through. Another one was there were a few items in the plan that were essentially completed. We are compliant. Should we change something, or there be renovations or something different, then absolutely it would need to be accessible. But there were a few things that were identified in the plan that, again, if we did anything, we'd have to make them accessible anyways. So that was kind of a couple of lenses that we looked at it through. Again, that's not speaking specifically to anything, but those were just a couple of things to know.
So I guess, yes, looking at Lions Lookout, and we're looking at, say, that particular item, I can't remember which one, access to Lions Lookout, 6.5H. My understanding is, yes, currently as it stands, we maybe weren't doing anything to change it to make it accessible. But as we're looking at the waterfront design and the projects that we're thinking of, then in turn, once we do something to Lions Lookout, it does have to become accessible and meet the AODA standards. Is that possibly correct, or Crystal, you don't want to speak to it till you talk to Steve?
I think, sorry, through you, Chair Armour. It was more so in regards to items that, you know, you might look at it and say, okay, that's not accessible. However, it was at the time that it was built, or it was deemed to be in compliance at the time that it was built. So actually, I'm going to use the elevator as an example. Well, it's not at this time deemed to be accessible in that the pathway is not barrier free to get to the elevator. We are still in compliance because at the time that that was built, so it was prior to 2012, it was in compliance. So that's kind of what I'm speaking to, is that there are certain items that when we go to address an area, so I'll use the elevator again, when we go to address council chambers in that area, absolutely it will need to be addressed and updated and fixed. However, that's to be done. But at this time, we are technically in compliance because it was done before the upgrades came in.
Correct. Go ahead, Dion.
Yeah, so essentially grandfathered in. If it met the criteria requirement at the time, it's grandfathered in. Once any sort of renovation is done, or if we choose to put that project on the books as one we're going to identify, then we have to fix it to the today standard or to the 2025 standard.
Yes, absolutely. And sorry, again, through you, Chair Armour, that kind of that line within the legislation was put there because it's just not financially feasible to be able to fix everything all at once across the whole province. So that was why that was put in there, was that as things are being updated, all of the requirements need to be met across all of the legislation. But that it didn't go back in time just because it would not be financially feasible to be able to do everything all at once. So that was the reasoning for that.
Right, so compliance at the time. Lorraine, go ahead.
I don't understand why we would remove something even if we're currently compliant. It's still an issue for people, and whether it's Lion's Head, Ice at the I don't even know how to say that, the arena. If it's still being identified as a barrier, and it may be compliant with current legislation, grandfathered in, but it's still being identified as a barrier, why wouldn't we have it on our accessibility plan as this is something we need to address, maybe not this year, maybe 5 years, but to me, this is, it isn't about just saying, okay, we meet the legislation. It's about saying, how do we become more accessible?
Right, I understand that. Laurel?
I was just going to say, I agree fully. If it comes off the plan, I think it slips off the table, right? In many things. And also back to the transit, Debbie's suggesting that they made a whole big tour around and nothing ever came of that. Like, things aren't accessible. Like, bus stops aren't accessible. So can we find out when they will be accessible?
Absolutely, we can find it out. John?
I was just going to reiterate, some of what the other people had said there. I think that although it may be grandfathered in, I think if it's in the document, then front and center for when the time comes up that it has to be dealt with, and then it doesn't fall by the wayside. Was there new funding for the transit that the town got? And again, was any thought given to any of these shelters for the stops with COVID money? Or I thought I had read something about there was transit money that came in.
there was transit money that came in, but I don't know if it was actually directed for things like bus stops or shelters like that. I know they mentioned the fact the bus stops at places like the Independent, for example, or a Walmart, where they already have a foyer area where someone, if we were to put a bus stop out there and enclosure, I know Director Hernan spoke to that, but as for the other aspect, I'm not really sure, because unfortunately Debbie was the one that made the trip around with Director Hernan on this. So I don't think they took any notes or anything that I'm aware of. So I don't know if you can speak to that, Dion.
Well, I was just going to say that I know it is a topic at council that we are bringing forward. We did have a presentation that Steve was going to do, but if you remember, Dan, it did get deferred based on some of the comments, again, that Debbie had put forward. The balance is we do have a lot of members with transit who like the flag down system, the ability to flag it at certain times. And so if you start to create, this is the exact spot, this is the exact pickup, it then negates the ability to do the flag down piece. So I know that we're looking at it for sure. We want it on the books to be looked at. I know the concern, and I know Debbie had brought forward that concern, is when we had presented it to council, it comes with a price tag of what that looks like to change the transit system. So I think her fear was that when you come with such a giant price tag, council in turn isn't going to want to put that price tag onto taxpayers. And so it may get defeated. And we don't want it. We were trying to figure out ways to look at it from a lens of, yeah, where is some accessibility? What are some of the funds we could look to use? We declared ourselves a climate emergency as a town. We want to keep, transit and those things going, because that does help, our stance on it being a climate emergency. So it is on the books. It is something that we are looking at. It's not completely lost. And I think just the whole idea from our committee making it, what is it from the accessibility standpoint that we want? Do we want the ability for people to flag it down? Do we want the ability for shelters? How many shelters? Like, what areas do we need to re-examine the whole entire system? Again, from a cost perspective, just weighing that balance, that's what we do need to look at. And I guess as a committee, what is our stance on that?
Diane, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I do feel it's important that the transit stay as a priority for the town. Again, the flagging down system I'm aware of, but I know that some people we support who aren't necessarily flagging down the bus have waited at a bus stop and the bus is driven right by them. So I think there just has to be some consistency on how, if you're taking transit, especially if you're new to town, you won't know that you flagged the bus down, right? So how do you have something in place so that'll work for everyone?
Go ahead, John.
I was reading something the other day, and it might, sort of apply in this situation. It was about tracking school buses, and it was basically a simple app for your phone that would show where the bus is in relation to the route. And, that might be a low cost effort that can be undertaken to sort of, if we didn't have to deal with the shelters, it's more about making sure that people aren't standing outside for an hour waiting for the bus, and they can track the bus and leave their house at it accordingly. If it's 5 minutes to the stop, then at least they can be there in that amount of time. So I think there's ideas. I still like the idea of having, certain key locations with a shelter where there's a fair amount of people. You wouldn't necessarily put one where no one's, where there's only one person getting on the bus. If there's multiple people, say, in front of the town hall utilizing it, then maybe that would be the spot, or, wherever, the mall.
Right.
So, just looking at different options for sort of trying to achieve the same thing. And I understand the costs involved of these shelters and stuff. So it does get pricey, but it's more about the timing.
The last report we received from Director Hernan and the bus line company was actually they're looking at instituting 2 buses and reducing the route from being a 2-hour loop to a 1-hour loop, where they would overlap. And at the same time, they would extend the route heading out to Muskoka Road 3. As you know, it developed quite a lot out that way. So I know that was the last study I believe that they were performing, and that was a couple of months ago, I think, that came to council. But I know they're using that money to continue with the study and try to figure out how they can make the route more convenient for people who are actually using it. Lauren?
I don't know what the official way to do this is, but I think I'm proposing that we say that if it's in the plan and that it doesn't get removed from the plan. A comment can be made that we meet, whatever standard is, and we're not going to take action at this moment, but I don't want things removed from the plan. So I propose that we don't remove anything.
Okay, I think Crystal wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, just to provide a little bit of clarification from a procedural standpoint, there were items that we were looking to take out because they are deemed to be completed. So if there are items that committee would like left in the plan, then I just need committee to identify those items by number, and then we can put that into a motion. So that's an option. If committee would like to go through now and identify which items they'd like left in the plan, yeah, that's an option. But there were a few items that were recommended to be removed from the plan because they're done. So that, good news story, they're completed. So there are those items as well.
There's also, go ahead, Laurel.
The other concern I have is that Steve Hernan is retiring and we're going to have somebody else who needs to come up to speed. So if Steve could do a report about what he did with Debbie, and Debbie seems to think he should be able to, then this new person would have reference to that, right? We've been through a lot of these people over the years.
So we have options here. Go ahead, John.
I think it was mentioned earlier about this, you're doing the waterfront trail design and stuff, and is the accessibility going to be part of that, or how is that being incorporated too? Because I see on Crystal's list here, 6.5E, they do have the access down to the Park Road dock as being completed, and Debbie, I don't know if she was, maybe she hadn't been there or something. What methods are being done? I take the walk from the old track up at the top of the hill and go down around, but I don't think that trail is accessible for based on the grades. But again, with these new connections into, from Hunters Bay along, I think we do have an opportunity to make a difference there and, do it the right way.
I agree there for sure. So we do have some options here. So as Crystal said, we could go through the plan now line by line, or another option is that we could defer this and everybody could have a really good look at the plan and maybe email Crystal everything we want to see stay in the plan. And then when we meet in December, we can come back to the whole thing and visit the entire plan and then pass it that way. If that's, I don't know, is that an option, Crystal, that we could play with?
Absolutely. If everyone would like some time to go through, look at the comments, look at the plan. And if you want to send me your comments, I'm happy to have some answers for you for the next meeting. And we can absolutely do that. We do have another meeting before the end of the year, so we have lots of time still.
Go ahead, John.
You were saying that some of the directors have not provided their comments yet, so.
That's correct.
So maybe we could get those and then review those comments and then put a package together. So I think it makes sense to defer this at this time.
Dion, you have your hand up?
Well, yeah, John just kind of stole my thunder there. I was going to say, I think it's probably worth getting some information back. Like, I know Simone is working on some of the signage things when it, transferred from one director to another. As we have mentioned, when a director leaves, how do we capture some of those ongoing things, right? So we do know Steve is leaving. So how do we make sure that next person has those pieces? And that, for example, the signage I know at the Summit Center did sort of get lost in that translation. So that's one piece that I know Simone is working on. being the vice chair of community services. I know she's working towards that, but again, yeah, it's getting those updates, I think, would be important for us to make that decision moving forward. Things like, I'd like a bit more maybe of an update on Hunters Bay Trail if we could, because I've had some concerns come forward. I understand from Colleen when I did some discussion with her that it was originally, before my time as a counselor, it had been presented that it would be like $330,000 to pave that entire trail. So I understand they've been doing bits and pieces of it at each time. So there are definitely areas that aren't accessible, but they're working towards it. So some of those updates I think are good to have and know for those of us who maybe don't have the history of the progression with some of
Right.
these things.
Okay, so go ahead, Lauren.
For me, like if it could be deferred, but I think it's pretty easy to even just go through the section that says notes on completed items or items to be recommended to be removed. And like, I'm just going through here quickly on my screen looking and saying, well, take that out anything that has the line completed. But if it says something like, for instance, access to the council chambers elevator, which is 6.2D. The elevator currently in place meets accessibility requirements. It's recommended that this item be removed. Well, keep that item. Like if it's recommended to be removed because nothing's being done, I say we keep that item. And then it's pretty clear if something's done, then you document it as done and then that one can go. I could pretty quickly pick out the items that need to stay for sure.
Okay, so would the committee just like to go through it right now? Maybe Crystal could bring it up on the screen and everybody could see it and we could go through it. Does that sound, everybody okay with that? Seeing the head shakes, I would say yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We'll try that, Crystal, bring it up on the screen and we'll just go through it. And
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. If I can just muddy the water a little bit more.
okay, muddy water.
The other
like.
reason for some of the removal of items was for the sake of consistency. So we have identified items that would have to be addressed should we address the building itself or should we address the area itself. We also have items that as staff, we know, okay, this would have to be changed. There are multiple across the entire municipality that, you know, once it's updated, things would need to be changed. I'm going to use our staff area in town hall. Well, we are compliant and we have to make accommodations. There are areas that aren't necessarily barrier free. So, but that's not identified in the plan. So that was the idea of consistency of there was just some items in the plan that were noted in the plan that we would have to do anyways. So I understand wanting to keep it on the docket, but I think for some of it, it was for the sake of consistency as well, because there were some items that aren't in the plan that we would also have to do anyways, and we would want to do anyways. So I'm happy to go through the plan. I just wanted to throw that out there as well, because I didn't know that earlier that was something else that was in the back of our minds was just some consistency. But I can definitely pull up the.
So Crystal, through you, Chair Armour, I understand what you're saying, but I guess that's the piece is where do we get a list of those things? Like, yeah, I know that if we do council chambers, we're going to have to do the elevator, right? But how does committee here know that those are those items that are just when we do this, this will need to be fixed. So if it's not on the plan, but how do we have a list of those items that we know that if you're going to fix something, you're definitely, this is in the forefront of your mind. So that's the part I think Lorraine is saying, if we take it off of the plan, how do we as a committee know that these are the items that you're going to address when something needs to be fixed?
I think some of those items probably be dealt with the building code, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
if once we go to change something, it would have to be compliant with OODA, right? And accessibility plans. Go ahead, Lorraine.
So I want to take the council chamber elevator as an example of, yes, it's going to be on the plan if you make changes, but we've identified that regardless of the changes that council might want or the town staff might want to the rest of the building, we think that the elevator is an issue because it means, for example, our committee can't meet in council because it's not accessible. And so even though something might be changed in the future when other changes are identified, we're still identifying, to us, this is still a big issue. And maybe it gets addressed before the other items are changed. You know, if funding came through for special to renovate elevators or something, you know, we want to say, regardless of the rest of the building, we know that this is an issue and we don't want it forgotten. Regardless of whether it's going to have to be done when renovations are done, this is important to us. And I think some of these other issues are the same too. We continue to want to say, you know, access to transit, access to, sorry, my brain's just left for a second. My brain went away.
Access to the arena.
Access to the arena, access to Lions Lookout. They're still important to us, even though they might be deemed not possible at this time or will be done when the rest of the things are done. They are still important to us. And we want them front and center to be part of the discussion of how do we make this town more accessible.
Well said, Lorraine. I think that's the whole point we were trying to make with this committee is that, yes, we have AODA requirements, but how as a town do we do better than the bottom line expectation of this is the AOD requirement and we meet it, or because something's grandfathered in, we meet it. But how as a town do we become that town that is accessible for all, whether it's, you know, visibility issues, accessibility issues with wheelchairs, or as I've even said, a mom pushing a stroller. If a mom and dad pushing a stroller can't get over a hump or up somewhere, how do you think somebody with a vision issue or a wheelchair is going to maneuver it, right? So how do we make that viable for everyone? And we have a lot of seniors in our community, and I get time and time again emails just around accessibility in this town for somebody with lower mobility issues.
Go ahead, Lorraine.
I think by keeping things front and center, you also have people thinking about how could you do it different. So, you know, I'll take the walkway that is being built beside Town Hall right now. I'm so excited about that because it will just make it so much easier to go from the back of the building, from the street in the back. You know, it will be used by moms with strollers, parents with strollers, seniors, people like me who have trouble walking stairs. And by keeping it front and center of it on the wish list, a solution came up with the church giving that piece of land that allowed for the S curve in the walkway. The same with, you know, the front stairs at the town hall. There may come a time when somebody comes up with an idea of how to do things different. So by keeping things front and center, we're open to people being innovative and coming up with solutions that aren't necessarily being discussed yet.
Right. So I think what I'm hearing here is that everybody would like to, if it's completed, as Crystal has alluded to, that we can have that removed from the plan, but anything that isn't completed, and even though it was grandfathered clause in, that we would keep it in the plan going forward. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. How's that sound to you, Crystal?
That sounds all right. I'll actually refer it to Brenda, our recording secretary for the meeting, if she's able to pull up a motion in that regard.
Hello, Brenda.
Hi there. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so are we?
I think what we're looking for.
What are you looking for?
I think what the committee is looking for is that we leave the plan status quo, except for those things that have been completed under the plan. So things like the Lions Lookout or the ice surface, et cetera, actually stay in the plan.
I'm just going to share my screen here.
All right.
My apologies.
No apologies needed.
I'm attempting to.
Would it be easier, sorry through you, Chair Armour, to Brenda, would it be easier if we tell you, because I think there's maybe 4 to take out and the rest we're leaving in?
Okay.
Right. Just to what we remove what's been completed only.
Yes.
Right.
So it would be 6.4C.
Just one moment.
Yeah, no worries.
Mhm.
0.4.
But she's working on this. I would need a mover and a seconder. Do we have, Lorraine is going to be the mover. We have a seconder. I can't say, oh, John. Okay. Great.
Yeah, so sorry, Brenda, 6.4C, because it is completed and it's incorporated into the new community planning permit process. So I'm good with that because we know we're leaving transit in. 6.5E, don't put that in yet, because again, I think we have a question mark around the town dock access. But 6.5F for sure, Port Sydney Beach, Moby Mat, completed.
Yep.
6.7B, collection development plan, completed. And 6.7C, programming policy and plan. So I believe those are the only 3 items, and we are going to confirm about the access to town dock before we say it's completed.
Thanks for doing that. I lost it when she shared the screen. So
Sorry.
that's okay. No,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no, Brenda, the 6.5, what did I say?
6.5E.
No, yes, so 6.5E take out. You don't have it in there?
No.
But 6.5F. Okay, yep, those are the 4. Correct. So they're to be removed from the plan.
So those are the ones to be removed from the plan?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
And everything else is staying.
If I may, Chair Armour, just for some wording for
Yes. Go ahead,
for
Crystal.
Brenda, thank you. So I'm just thinking you'll want something like with the following changes. The plan to remain status quo with the exception of the following items to be removed.
Right. Laurel, do you have your hand up? Do you have a question?
Yes, I did. I just wanted to say there is a spot in the plan for things that have been completed too. So they would be put in the spot where it says things that have been completed, right?
Yes, they would be moved to that section of the plan.
So they're not removed totally, they're just moved to that section, right?
That's correct. But we lost you.
Chair Armour, while Brenda works on a motion for this, would committee be amenable to moving on to the next item and I can work with her on a motion?
Absolutely. Is
Okay, thank you.
everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Good. All right, the next one is the site plan, and John has declared a community interest and shut his camera. So the site plan we reviewed is at on Elliott Street, and it is going to be a 2-story, 10-unit multi-resident dwelling. It consists of about 430 meters of ground floor area, and it's going to consist of 4 2-bedroom units and 6 1-bedroom units. It's going to have accessible parking. The apartments will be accessible. The lighting, it's going to be dark sky friendly. And the access, I believe, is going to be off Wilmot Street. Yeah, I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to look through that plan and have a see. Go ahead, Lorraine.
How do you actually see the plan? Because there's no link to it, at least in that I see.
Oh, right. Okay. So it would have to go back to the planning minutes.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it was like a meeting or two ago, and then we've been deferring it till this meeting.
Yeah. It just passed on I believe on the 15th.
May I ask, is it rental or condo?
It's going to be rental. So I don't believe it's going to be low income rental yet. I don't think they confirmed that. But when it comes to low income rental, they have to get the zoning and the permit first prior to making the application to the district to be accepted into the that rental program. So, and it's going to be a nice addition to that end of town, and it's not that far from downtown for people.
So at what point, when would we know if it was going to be like affordable housing? Because I mean, that is what our town is lacking.
Yes, we'll find that out because it has to go through committee first and then be approved. So that went through last night, actually, at council was ratified. So they'd have to then make application. But those questions were asked at the planning committee, and we never really got a concrete answer at the time. Crystal, are you back?
Apologies, we're just still finalizing. I think we just have the flag design next from Brenda.
Yep. So 7, that's a 7.1 flag design. National Accessibility Week is the 2022, May 29th to June 4th, 2022. And Brenda has.
I do. I want to attempt to share my screen again.
Okay. Welcome back, John.
So I have a photo of the flag from the town of Bracebridge. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Now, National Accessibility Week, I see that Bracebridge is referring to National Access Awareness Week, but it's actually called National Accessibility Awareness Week. So I would look for input from the committee on the wording that you would like on the flag. The other thing I'm looking for, the standard flag is about 3.6 feet. We can do 3.5 as times 5 as well. I believe the one we're looking at here is probably 3 times 6. So I'm just looking for input on the wording. If you would like the Town of Huntsville logo in the corner, if you like this design with the wheelchair in the other corner. So just looking for some feedback on that from committee.
All right. Let's see. Does anybody have their hand up? I can't see everybody.
I
Does
can
anybody have
stop
any?
sharing.
Yeah, if you can stop sharing, that'd be great. Thanks.
Sorry.
So does anybody have any input for that? Go ahead, John.
Would agree with Brenda that you should probably have the Town of Huntsville logo on there and get the name right. Other than that, I don't have any comment on it.
Okay, thank you for that. My only comment, does National Access Week actually work? Or would you like to actually see Accessibility Week in there? I know it would make the printing smaller, but that could be confusing for someone if they can't see with the top of the flag. Go ahead, Lauren.
Do you mean Lorraine?
Lorraine, sorry.
That's okay. They're close, very close names. I think it should be accessibility to, the word should be accessibility. It ties in better with our committee name, and also it's the proper name of the week. So I think that's what you, personally, yes, change that to accessibility, that word.
Thank you.
Color wise as well, would
Yeah.
you be looking at the blue?
I'm not partial. Blue's fine with me. I'm not sure if anybody in the committee has any suggestions. Or could we actually get some, when we do the design up, could we see it in a couple of different colors and give us an idea?
Absolutely.
I think more than anything, we want it to be readable, right? We don't want it to blend, so.
Okay.
Laura,
Nice.
go ahead.
I'm gonna,
Just, I think blue generally goes with accessibility, doesn't it? Like the markings on the signs are blue, so that makes more sense to me.
Dion, did you have a question?
I'm gonna try sharing my screen and see if this works. I don't know. So yeah, and I don't know, because they've got sort of the light, that blue color with the different signs, and there's different sort of colors. I don't think we want to get that complicated, but yeah, I kind of like that color, which I think might be more the blue that they're referring to. Does that make sense to most people?
I also like the way, Dion, in that that snippet you had on the screen, I like the way how they put the capital A on ability.
Yeah, I think that's how it's done.
It is.
National access ability with the capital A.
You're good. I like that. Lorraine?
I really like in the one that Dion is showing, all those different symbols. I know we can't make our flag too cluttered, but I like the idea that it's more than just the wheelchair. There's all those other symbols. I don't know if there's any way to incorporate a few more of the symbols, or you know, across the bottom or something.
We don't want to make it too busy that it takes away from it, but I agree. I like those symbols also.
But it's in the one that Dion showed, it's not too busy by having all those symbols.
Yes,
So-
I think that's more of a banner though than an actual flag. Is that not right?
Well, it's just the website I went to, but I don't know if they have the ability to give us options. But yes, that's the website, and then that's what it looks like.
That's some great ideas. Go ahead, John.
I like that idea too of having the different ones at the bottom. Do we really need to say Huntsville Accessibility Committee? Or do we just identify the week and then on the bottom have all those different symbols, so it has everyone, you know, if you put the town's crest on there, the logo up in the corner, everyone's gonna know it's Huntsville.
Yeah. Okay. Councillor Schumacher?
Yeah, through you, Chair Armour, I would agree. All I think we should say is National Accessibility Week, because, and you don't even want to get into dates because the week could change from year to year. So just National Accessibility Week, and we could have the town logo in the corner and then a number of those other identifiers, so that people get the idea that it isn't just about wheelchairs. And I mean, that did come up at the waterfront design, is that most people, when they think it's accessibility, they just think wheelchairs. And we're trying to get that message out, that it's more than just that. When people think accessibility, it's accessibility for all, right? So.
I like that idea. Very good. What do you think, Brenda? We leave you lots of ideas there?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Now, I do have a motion here that I'm going to share my screen, if I may. And Chair Armour, if you could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can see it well. So moved by, I can't see any hands. Lorraine? Yeah. seconded by Laura
Second.
Shaw.
Okay.
It is recommended that the Town of Huntsville annual recognized National Accessibility Week held the end of May and the first week of June. And further that committee approved the cost and design of the National Accessibility Flag to a maximum of $300 to be funded from the government budget in the Accessibility Advisory Committee. And further that Council approved the amendment to appendix of the town flag protocol policy to include addition of the National Accessibility Week. All those in favor? That motion's carried. Thanks, everyone. I really look forward to seeing this flag when it's designed.
Thank you.
Mhm. So we'll go back. There's Crystal, she's back. How'd we make out?
I have a motion for you. So there is the motion to amend, and then should everyone on committee be happy with that and that get passed, and there is the final motion as amended. So the first one I'm going to show here is the motion to amend.
And we have a mover for that. Dion. Seconder, Lorraine or Diane. How about Diane this time? Okay, everybody can see that good? Perfect. So it's moved by Dion Schumacher, seconded by Diane Lupton. It is recommended that the following be added to the end of the motion with the following changes. The plan to remain status quo with the exception of the following items to be removed from the plan and added to the accomplishments to the date as completed. 6.4C site plan guidelines, 6.5F access to Port Sydney Beach, Moby map, 6.7B collection development plan, and 6.7C programming policy plan. Anybody have any questions about that? All in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much, Crystal and Brenda,
I'll
for
just bring
doing
up
that.
the main motion as amended.
Yep. So moved by Dion Schumacher, seconded by Dan Lupton. It is recommended that committee approve the 2021 update to the 2018-2022 Town of Huntsville Accessibility Plan and the accessibility accomplishments to date attached as Schedule A and B to report Corporation 2021-67 with the following changes. The plan to remain status quo with the exception of the following items to be removed from the plan and added to the accomplishments to date as completed. 6.4C site plan guidelines, 6.5F access to Port Sydney, 6.7B collection development plan, and 6.7C programming policy plan. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you, everyone. Does anybody have any, move on to number 8. Does anybody have any new business? John?
I wanted to say I was really impressed with the ramp going down by the old TD Bank. I see they paved that the other day, and it's going to look quite sharp, and it's really wide, which was nice to see that they went extra wide on it. That was it.
That's great. Has anybody had an opportunity to get downtown with some of the new work they've done? It's going to look pretty impressive when it's done, that's for sure. Go ahead, Lorraine.
I was downtown for the first time in a long, long time. I went there yesterday. So I was so happy to see the sidewalk beside town hall, as I was saying, and then the spot that John was talking about as well. It was really challenging to find parking, but it was definitely not accessible. I could just tell you that it was difficult for me. So I can't imagine somebody trying to walk what was going on yesterday if you had any assistive devices with you. It would have been really, really hard. But anyway, hopefully that's short term, and soon it'll be much easier to walk around downtown. And I have high hopes for Kent Park being a wonderful spot. And I hope that in the end, there's lots of places for people to sit and just rest if you have mobility issues as you go up the hill. So you can shop by stopping for a rest.
Yeah, we have quite a few Muskoka moments along through Main Street. So I think when they did the plan, they really looked into things like that. And I know it's been a challenge the last few months with construction going on and them trying to keep the storefronts open and keeping them accessible. But I know they've really tried hard to do that. Any other new business? Number 9, general information, 9.1 correspondence, the Bracebridge Inclusive Playground. Did everybody have a look at that? And then 9.2 council updates. Dion, you go ahead.
Sure, put me on the spot because I have to leave in 3 minutes.
Well, that's why I let you go first.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, sort of as we talked a bit about the waterfront design, I know when I met with the consultant, one of my top concerns is public access to waterfront as part of AODA and making sort of all of that area along there accessible for all. So I brought accessibility up as a huge issue when we looked at waterfront design and working with the consultant. Again, just celebrating the stuff that was going on at the Port Sydney Beach this past summer and all the updates there. And yeah, I'm trying to think what else I can speak to. Dan, you probably have been doing a few more with regards to accessibility and council.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. You touched on quite a few things there too, but I know that they've been looking at the grounds over by North Church Street by Fairburn with what's going on there. As I think everybody's aware, Fairburn has a new location now, and I think it's a great spot actually where they're placing it. That's a good news story for sure. And yeah, and affordable housing. We do have a couple of plans coming forward right now, actually, that a sixplex that they're looking for affordable housing. And so I think we're heading in the right direction. Huntsville is very vibrant and growing quickly right now. And I think we've all felt with COVID and what's going on there, but hopefully there's a silver lining or a light at the end of the tunnel coming soon so we can get back to meeting and together in the one room, because I know these Zoom meetings become very tiresome for everybody and you can get distracted very easy. So I think everybody agrees with that one. Anyway, that's what all I have. But, is there anything else? Laurel, go ahead.
Just, I want to make sure that we could ask Steve Hernan for his report or whatever he got out of that meeting that he had with Debbie before he leaves town or leaves the town.
Okay.
That would be good to have for sure.
I'll speak to Steve directly and see if he's got any notes that he could
hopefully he did, because that was a lot of time they took to do that, right? And it was a lot of effort for Debbie to do that with him. So hopefully he did.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he has all those notes, and we could probably get a better update on transit for sure and what's going forward. And maybe he could share that report talking about decrease in the route from 2 hours to 1 hour and adding another bus, et cetera. So.
Right. Okay.
I know there's costs associated with all that stuff, but as you say, the town is growing and we need to grow with it, right?
Right. And it's law, isn't it? Like there's bus stops are supposed to be accessible, correct? Soon, by 2025, I guess.
I think that we were looking at moving bus stops too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Once you build the structure, it remains that way, right? So.
Right.
Okay. I don't think I see anything else. So I have an adjournment left here. So it's moved by John Gallagher, seconded by Diane Lupton. It is now recommended that we do adjourn at 2:30 p.m. All those in favor? And that carries. I just want to thank everybody for finally getting together a little bit, and we'll see each other in a couple